Hey everybody, it's Trevor here with the channel where every day is range day, and in this week's video we're going to be going over my top 5 AR-15 mods for under 100 bucks. Let's check it out. Alright guys, let's say you've planned out and even bought the parts for your next AR-15 build, or maybe even your first. You've got the basics covered, of course. The complete weapon with a stock and a sling is pretty standard, I'd say, in this day and age. Iron sights for sure, and probably even an optic. Of course, if you haven't budgeted for an optic, most of them usually fall outside of the $100 price range, at least most of those worth buying anyways. But a good value optic would be the Sig Sauer Romeo 5. Usually this one floats just over $100, which is why I leave it off this list, but it's an incredibly great optic for the money, lots of cool features and good quality. Check out our video on the channel if you're interested to learn more about it. It's pretty good for the money, but just over 100 bucks. But let's say after you've got your basics purchased, maybe thanks to some coupons or some sales going on, somehow you managed to come out the other side with an extra 100 bucks that you could use to put towards your build. Of course, a financially responsible person could just chuck that in the bank and save it for later, but that's not exactly why you're here, is it? So let's get into my list of the top 5 mods you can do for your AR-15 build for under 100 bucks. And of course, we're clear. Now getting into it, we're not sponsored by any of these companies, and some of these items will come in well under $100, so you might be able to pick up a couple. Some of them might be stretching closer to that $100 range. Of course, these are just my preferences and some of the items that I pick for my own build, but if you have any AR-15 mods that come in at under $100 that I don't go through and you absolutely love them, leave them down below in the comments. We'd love to check it out. That being said, moving on to number 1 is, of course, some QD swivels and attachments. Now, as I said to start with, a sling is probably a pretty standard item, and I would consider it an essential piece of gear or an attachment for any AR build. That being said, you can attach the sling to your rifle in a number of different ways. You can see I have them here on the front end of my receiver, and then also at the end plate here on the back. Each QD swivel is only 15 to 20 bucks, which is a little expensive if you ask me, but they definitely fall in under our cost cap. But you should definitely be able to get a couple of them for under $100. I like to run one up front on my receiver for the front end of my sling, and of course the one here on the back. You can also even get some butt stocks that'll have an attachment here. A pair of QD swivels and the end plate here will only set you back about $60, which is well under our cost cap, and would serve as a great addition to any AR build, especially for the sling. There might be other attachments that you can put up and down your rail that can take QD attachments, so look into that as well. QD accessories are great for swapping slings and other items between different rifles. I also think the swiveling also just helps the slings especially be less likely to bind up on anything, and it's definitely something I'd include on a build. Number 2 on this list for me would be ambidextrous safety selectors that you can see here. I have the Radian Talon in tungsten, and this is an ambidextrous safety selector that can be set to 90 or 45 degree throws. Your base safety selector is more than likely not going to be ambidextrous, and upgrading to something like this product from Radian is a great option for those, especially if you're left-handed. But personally, I like to use each side of the safety selector for different things. Usually I'll use the thumb side of it like this whenever I'm readying a weapon up, but then when I'm bringing it back down, I like to curl my finger away from the trigger to click it back onto safe. This is more of a personal preference for me, but these Radian safety selectors are top notch, as are most things from Radian, and you'll be able to snag a kit like this in a couple different colors for well under $60. Number 3 on the list, also following a similar controls type scenario as to the safety selector, is an upgraded charging handle. Again, in the industry, Radian products are generally regarded as the best of the best, and you can absolutely never go wrong with a Radian Raptor charging handle. I have the full metal version of the Radian Raptor charging handle here in tungsten gray, but you can also get a slightly cheaper version that's reinforced with polymer. The metal versions will run you anywhere from $80 to $90 based on sales going on, with the polymer coming in a bit cheaper at under 70 bucks. These are ambidextrous, so you'll be able to pull them on both sides of the weapon, whereas a stock charging handle is usually pretty plain, definitely not made out of better materials, and almost certainly not ambidextrous. Again, this is another important mod if you're left-handed or have trouble with the rather limited side that a stock charging handle comes on, but the Radians are also so much smoother and a very, very high quality part. Again, I'd recommend this as a top new mod for under $100 that you should pick up just because you use it so often. Up next for number 4 on the mods list is the bad lever from Magpul. You can see the bad lever falls in right here over your bolt catch on your lower receiver. Normally when you run out of ammo in a mag and you have the last round bolt hold open like you can see here, and then when you go to reload you'll have to seat the new mag and then hit the bolt catch to send the bolt forward and chamber the new round before you can resume your grip up front with your offhand. Some people just set the new mag and catch the bolt catch with your thumb when it goes up. Other people seat smack and then grab the front of the weapon, and a lot of people just don't like how that feels, and this is where the bad lever comes in. You can see that's a simple polymer part that clips over the bolt catch, a bar goes down and through your trigger guard, as you can see, and will come out the other end. This allows you to use your trigger finger to send the bolt forward instead of having to use the same hand for everything. So you can seat the new mag, send the bolt forward with your trigger finger while this hand is moving up front, and it might help get your grip situated that much faster. And it also just feels a little bit more natural to some people, myself included. You can find the bad lever from Magpul for well under $30 most of the time, and it's oftentimes a go-to accessory that's well worth the money in my opinion. And last but not least, another mod that I like to do that's definitely under $100 is a custom paint job. You can check out the video on our channel of me painting my rifle, as you can see here, but there are plenty of different ways to paint your rifle to make it your own and also make it look pretty cool while you're at it. It can be as simple as picking up a couple cans of flat spray paint and just doing some crisscrosses and slashes all over your weapon. You can even purchase stencils, be it stickers or just a patterned piece of fabric to lay over it. You can be as creative or as simple as you want, but adding a paint job is definitely a good way to help your rifle blend in with your environment or just make it look cool, which we know is what really matters here. And that's going to about do it for our top 5 AR-15 mods for under $100. Again, in no particular order. Number 1 was, of course, the QDs, swivels, and attachments. Number 2 being ambidextrous safety controls. 3 being an upgraded charging handle. Would definitely recommend the Radian here. Number 4 being the bad lever for Magpul. And number 5, of course, a custom paint job of your own. A lot of these come in under $100 and you might be able to even pick a couple of them depending on what you get. But I would also like to bring up a couple of honorable mentions that don't quite fit in this list for one reason or another, be it that they're not directly a mod for your AR-15 or of course that they're more expensive. Again, I brought the Sig Sauer Romeo 5 optic up at the beginning of the video. It's generally a little bit over $100, but if you have a little bit extra cash and you don't have an optic yet, I would definitely recommend that particular optic. Another great option that is generally priced out from the $100 range is a trigger upgrade. I just have the enhanced polish trigger from PSA on this one, but you can get some very nice trigger kits from Geisley and the like. Those generally tend to be well over $100 or even $200, so that's why they didn't make the list. If you have a bit more money than $100 and you really want a new trigger, that would also be a pretty solid option for an upgrade. Another good upgrade would of course be extra magazines, and while you can get a handful of these for well under $100, I didn't include them initially because they're not exactly a direct mod to the weapon itself, just more of an extra that's always good to have a couple of. I'd recommend having 3 at a minimum, but you never go wrong with buying a couple extra mags if you have the money. To go along with all the extra mags in your new weapon is of course a nice bag to carry it in to and from the range. Again, not a direct mod to the AR, so I didn't put it in the list, but you can generally find a good range bag with some mag holders that'll fit all your stuff and maybe some more for under $40 or $50 or so. And last but not least is of course a weapon light. I have the Streamlight HLX on here, which mounts directly onto my rail, and while this does cost over $100, so it wouldn't make the list for that point, there is a fair argument that a weapon light should almost be considered one of the basics, and it's something that you should consider budgeting for from the outright, just like an optic. Again, you could probably find some mounted weapon lights to come in at under $100, but I would almost consider including that in your budget from the outright. The HLX here is pretty close to $100, might be just edged out of that price category. Well, that looks like it's going to be it for the video today, guys, on my top 5 AR-15 mods that come in at under $100. A lot of these items are direct modifications to the weapon itself, and feature adjustments or upgrades to a lot of the components that you use basically every time you pick up and manipulate the weapon. Be it QD attachments for your sling, safety selectors, a charging handle, or even the Magpul bad lever for a reload. And of course just a cool custom paint job to really make your weapon your own. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like down below, and if you have other AR mods that come in at under $100 that you absolutely cannot live without, feel free to leave them down below in the comments. We'd love to check it out. And as always, make sure to subscribe to the channel, where every day is range day. Thank you for watching.